Welcome to the Flymen Fishing Show, where we talk fly fishing, fly tying, and everything in between. I'm your host, Scotty Davis.
What's new, brother?
How much?
Yeah.
You know, living life, surviving day by day.
That's it.
What about you?
About the same. Trying to stay out of the heat and fish as much as I can, but been early mornings and night fishing for me. So
right. Same.
Yep. Y'all been staying busy with charters?
It's slowed down now. School started back last week and it's hot. So this August starts the real decline in what we're doing.
Yeah.
Charter wise. We're still getting plenty of inquiries. There's just not a lot to go and do once you explain it to people that it's not that much fun to sit in a boat for 8 hours when it's 95 degrees outside.
Yeah, that's true.
Kind of talk them off their perch.
Nice. Are you when it's hot like that, you mainly just do smallmouth and carp, or?
Yeah, exactly. So you can go do that early morning smallmouth thing. Should be, I just wrote a fishing report. It should be busting bait on the surface this time of year early. So sort of first light till kind of depends on the day. The sun comes up and burns the mist off the river or something like that. They'll stop biting like that. And so you can go and, you can get 4 hours of fishing in and be back at the office by 11 o'clock kind of deal. So
That ain't bad.
no, it's not bad.
You fishing there in Knoxville for those, or you traveling?
No, it's here. Just right here. Yeah, right up the road.
Convenient.
Yep.
Taking that big new sled you got?
Yeah, she's not new anymore.
Like a damn dance floor.
Yeah, you can sleep on it.
What kind of boat is it?
It's a towie.
Yeah.
It's a one-off thing he called the Sherpa. And he may be trying to reconfigure it a little bit and make some tweaks and make it a little bit better boat and put it into production. I'm not sure where he's at with that right now.
So that was the only one they made?
Yeah.
Nice. Is it the same length as the other ones?
It's a little bit bigger. So it's about, I don't even know what the dimensions are. It's over 17 long and it's over 6 wide. It's much.
Holy shit.
Yeah. I mean, I can lay down crosswise on both decks, no problem, and have inches to spare. So
That's perfect.
yeah.
You normally taking you and 2 anglers?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Do you have a little towie too?
No, I sold it. I wish I had it still. I mean, it was a really fun little boat just for scouting or you and one of your buddies, kind of thing. It's perfect boat. It's not a great commercial guide boat. It's too limited on space,
Right.
cockpit wise, but from a recreational angler standpoint, just being able to launch it wherever you want to and put it away in the garage by yourself, and all that sort of stuff. It doesn't weigh anything. You could tow it with a
Golf
Honda
cart.
Civic. Yeah, if you wanted to. It's not a big deal. So it was a great little boat I always, if I had more room, I'd probably have one.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? That's always a limiting factor. So how much garage space you got right now?
Exactly.
I got none.
You still have the drift boat too?
Yeah.
Yeah. Do you use that mainly for trout trips?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Very rare. I mean, this year we had a usual spring, which we hadn't had in a long time. So what our spring should look like. And so we had some really low water, pretty much first part of spring through spring and early part of summer on most of those tailwaters. And so I used it a few times for smallmouth too, which I don't usually do, just because you couldn't really jet around on the rivers. They were so low.
Yeah. And your big boat's a jet drive?
Yeah.
Nice. What horsepower's on that?
60-40.
Yeah.
Mercury.
What do you mean 60-40?
It's a 60 Mercury power head, but when you
Put the jet.
put it through the pump in there, it loses about 20 horsepower.
Nice. That's nice. How old are that picture behind you? How old are those damn waders? I couldn't stop looking at that. It's like, that looks like circa 85 waders there. Neoprene.
The waders are probably 85. I think that's probably 1990.
Yeah.
That's out on the South Platte. It's my buddy Andy. He had his dad had a condo in Breckenridge, and they had a private lease on some water on the South Platte.
Nice.
So we went out there for the summer and fished a lot.
Yeah.
And messed around, worked.
Stay the whole summer.
Yeah, stayed the whole summer, worked at Clint's cookie shop, sold cookies and ice cream to the tourists, and went fishing anytime I wasn't in there working.
That's pretty bitching.
Yeah, it was cool.
So what else is going on in Knoxville besides the smallmouth? The striper is probably not a summer thing there either, is it?
It is. And in fact, that's what I put up on fishing report, is that this time of year, when the reservoirs start getting really warm, those, striper like a certain temperature range. And so they're looking for comfortable water for them where, probably helps them metabolize and digest anything they're eating. Probably shouldn't be tapping my pen, should I?
That's all right.
And so they'll push up into higher and higher into the tailwaters, all the way up to most of the dams where the cooler water is. And so you can go and have a pretty solid chance of hooking them up on one on the fly this time of year. The Clinch tailwater, which is one of our trout fisheries around here, is chock full of striper right now. And of course, they're hammering the trout as best they can. And then further down below what we consider the Clinch trout water is Melton Hill Dam, and they're definitely stacked below that dam right now. So
there's two dams there on your section of the Clinch.
Yeah, so one dam's, they're probably, I never measured that one. They're probably 30 miles apart.
Okay.
One film forms Melton Hill Lake, and the next one downfield forms Watts Bar Lake. So if you can imagine eastern Tennessee, you've got the Continental Divide kind of along the southern edge of that eastern border with North Carolina up into Virginia. So all those waters trickle down and flow towards the Tennessee. And you've got the Clinch coming from Virginia, the Holston coming from Virginia, and then the French Broad coming out of Asheville. And they're impounded almost immediately, most of them, in upper East Tennessee around Bristol and that area. The Clinch isn't impounded until it gets down to Norris, Tennessee, which is just due north of Knoxville. And so that's a huge watershed. And the Norris Dam, which is on the Clinch, that's the first dam TVA ever built, which was, I think, 1936.
Oh, damn.
Yeah. She's getting a few years on her.
Are they still using it for hydroelectric power?
Yeah. I mean, it's, you can imagine there's a lot of work, and we've had some issues with some of the dams around here. I mean, it's all aging infrastructure. Hopefully they earmarked a little bit of money for some dam work around here in these parts.
It'd be bad if they broke.
Yeah, it's not good news if something goes downhill with those things. But yeah, they're all functioning and serve principally as flood control, and then secondary would be for power generation, hydroelectric power.
Are there like fish ladders so the fish can get above the dams?
Mm-hmm.
No, so they're just stuck once they get there.
Mm-hmm.
Huh. So the fish above the first dam, they're just stuck in that section of river, basically.
Yep,
nice.
They are. But I mean, we're talking big sections of river. Like, I mean, you imagine. So Knoxville proper sits at the confluence. Downtown Knoxville sits almost at the confluence of the Holston River and the French Broad River. And so from downtown Knoxville to Douglas Dam is about, let's call it 30 miles. And then from downtown Knoxville to Cherokee Dam is probably about 55 miles, river miles. And then if you're going downstream, the next impoundment down is Lenoir City. It's Fort Loudon Dam. And that's, again, another 30 miles or so. So you've got this big lakey system that functions as a river at times when they're pushing and pulling water on them. So, it's a little bit akin to what you guys do over there in Charleston, in the sense that you're looking for certain water depths and flows at certain times. So with either one, you can use either the Holston or the French Broad on a given today, for instance, on a given day like today, they're typically going to run the dam during peak demand or power demand, right? And so that'll be sort of 8 o'clock, 7 o'clock, 8 o'clock till 10 o'clock at night, 9 o'clock at night, or maybe slightly truncated, not quite that long. So that puts a burp of water through that system. But, you know, if you got 25 miles, it gets dispersed and it falls out here and there and all that sort of stuff. And so at any given time, you can go right up on that wave and find the falling water or the rising water. And depending on what species you're searching for, or what you're trying to catch and all that sort of thing, you can target them better or fish for them a little bit differently if the water's falling or the water's coming out, or if it's dead low and not, you know, really moving at all.
So those stripers, you're looking for moving water. Do they kind of shut off when it stops?
Yeah. So you can imagine when it gets low, they sort of hunker down in holes and turn their feed bags off. But as soon as the water starts rising up, they sort of fan out and start going on the hunt. You know, just they're eating machines.
What's the size range?
You know, I've said this many times. It would surprise me. It wouldn't surprise me if we got a world record out of Tennessee on striper. So, you know, bigger fish than they're catching on the coast these days, for sure. So 50 plus is not a
holy cow
unusual fish by any stretch. You know, 60 pounders are getting caught. You know, fly guys, 25 to 40 pounds are pretty big fish. Yeah, so there's some big fish.
That's crazy. So is the IGFA, if they did the world records, would it be a freshwater striper and a saltwater striper, or is it just?
I don't have any idea. I don't know if they just. I don't have any idea. I've never looked at it.
You know, the first lake that they impounded them in freshwater was in South Carolina. Was the Santee Cooper system, and same thing. They built the power dam, and they just waited till them to go up there, or they didn't wait. They were up there, and they were like, "Well, screw it, we can't wait." So they just built it behind them. They started they just started reproducing in there and eating pretty well.
That's probably how they figured out that they were, because I mean, obviously they're introduced in Tennessee. They were never here before, but they've been here now for decades and decades.
60-pound striper. I don't know what I would do.
It's mean, dude.
That's crazy.
Mean. You know, early spring, we had a good spring, so we'll go out in the morning, sort of on the lower portion of the French Broad or the Holston, for that matter, and the skipjack herring will make a spawning run up the rivers, and so they'll stack up in the first shoals on all these rivers, and of course the striper are there with them, so you can catch your bait on a fly rod or however you want to catch it. Catch all you want. I mean, you can catch 100 of these skipjacks just stripping a little clouser or something through the water, and you just circle hook in the back. And I'm talking, you know, not small bait. I'm talking 20, 24-inch fish. You just, you know, slip it out behind the boat on a bait runner or something like that, and they just get hammered. I mean, it's fun. It's a lot of fun to see one of these really big fish just hammer these giant bait that you got swimming around out there on a free line.
Are you putting them on the bottom or like floating under a balloon?
I mean, you can definitely do cut bait, or you can do just, you know, put them under a balloon, or just freehand one, you know, and let them swim around out there.
Sounds like beer drinking.
Yeah, or you can sit there and catch, you know, more skipjack while you're doing it.
Yeah, that's true.
That's what you do a lot. Is just, you know, put a rod out and see what happens. Sometimes they're eating, sometimes they're not eating. That kind of thing, early in the spring.
So you would target the stripers with a sinking line?
Yeah, so sinking line, big flies, 10 weight kind of stuff. You know, it's there's some areas in East Tennessee where you can go do it, and it's more of a riverine sort of scenario. This time of year, you're kind of jammed up underneath a dam, which is not necessarily the most scenic stretch of river.
Right.
A lot of riprap and a lot of industrial looking things going around, but it's your best chance to catch a fish. If I had any free time, I'd probably be doing it this afternoon. But
yeah. In the winter, do they kind of space back out?
The space back out, they got a lot more room to roam. You know, everything sort of falls back down into the reservoir areas. You can spread out. They don't have to be, you know, they're not always searching for that cold water.
Yeah.
And I'd probably, you know, the bait fish are doing the same thing at that point. Wintertime, they're looking for a certain thermocline in the reservoir somewhere. So they got to push back into deeper water and sort of drop back down to where they find that comfort range of temperature. And then sometime, you know, these reservoirs flip. So you'll get a temperature inversion, and the bottom will flip over to the top. And that can happen pretty soon, potentially on some of them, just because but it's usually early fall, and that kind of messes everything up for a week or two in terms of what's getting kicked out oxygen wise, and the fish aren't sure what's up and what's down, so you got to kind of wait through that. But once it occurs, everything settles back down.
Turnover kind of.
Yeah.
So do you smallmouth all fall and winter too, or do you kind of go back to the trout?
You can smallmouth fish all year. It's once those temperatures start dropping and they slow way down, so it's not a ton of fun. It's real slow, real bouncing the bottom on sort of winter grounds where you can definitely go catch some fish, but it's not, when I think of smallmouth fishing, poppers and action and lots of stuff going on, so it's not my favorite thing to do. So typically we'll switch back to trout wintertime when you catch them whenever.
And you've kind of put, at least for Tennessee carp, y'all put that species kind of on the map up there with the tournament.
Yeah. It's
how'd the Three Rivers Carp Cup get started?
Man, we just decided to do it. I think they had been doing, when we started that, they had been doing that Denver Invitational Pro-Am carp tournament for a few years. I was like, I get why they do it the way they did. It was, kind of, they had beats on the water and it was somewhat restricted. Whereas I just described the range of the water to you. It's from those two upper dams down to that lower dam was what the historic waters boundaries were for the Carp Cup. So, we got all that water. You could wade fish, you could kayak, you could jet bow, drift bow, you could, for that matter, you could use a center console, 24-foot center console with a 250 on it and go chase them if you wanted to. So let's try that and do that. And this time of year, August, is when sales start slowing down, kids are going back to school and all that sort of stuff. So it was a way to sort of keep people in the shop and keep things going for a little bit, sales wise and otherwise. And then, a lot of guys are running over your neck of woods to fish for redfish and whatnot. So if you want to up your game and not get rusty when your guides over there big bucks to take you fishing for a day, you can be over here practicing a little bit, and it's pretty much the same skill set.
Well, I fished the carp tournament last year. Thanks for letting me borrow your boat, by the way. That was probably only the third carp I've ever caught, and coming from a redfish background, they're a lot harder to catch than redfish.
It's a little more finicky, right? Redfish eats.
Jesus. I didn't know this till recently, but somebody said they had two sets of lateral lines. So this, it's just real difficult. That any sensation they get, it's kind of game over. But so tricky, man.
Absolutely.
What's your favorite carp flies?
Cicadas.
Yeah,
when that was going on.
Is that over now?
What's that?
Is the cicadas over?
Yeah, it's long gone. It's long gone. It lasted till about mid-June, I guess it was, or a little bit past that.
Yeah.
I depending on where I am, I'm usually fishing one of two flies, and I hadn't fished for much lately. Umpqua has a pattern called Barry's carp fly that I use a lot. It's probably my favorite pattern. It's a pretty heavy fly, so it's not great for lake water where it's not moving kind of thing, because you need a little bit of moving water in order to disguise the splash, the plop when it hits the water. But on the tailwaters where you've got some flow and you've got some really big fish, it gets down pretty fast in their face. And if they see it, they'll come and eat it, basically, is what it boils down to. And then otherwise, a lot of times they'll use a big glow ball.
Yeah.
just a giant row pattern and Oregon cheese. They're a omnivore. They're curious by nature, and you show them, you plop something down that looks kind of like food, they're probably going to go over and suck it in and give it a chew, and just to see what it is. And plus, it's highly visible, as you probably learn. You need short of one actually attacking the fly and then yanking the rod out of your hand. You really, it's a visual thing where you got to see them you need to see the gill flash, or you need to see them suck the fly in to know when to go ahead and set the hook, kind of deal. But a lot of times we'll catch them, they'll eat anything. That's the thing. And you'll be smallmouth fishing and you'll see a feeding carp, and you can feed it a clouser or a game changer. Fed them some of those micro game changers. They see it and they're in that mood, they'll eat. It's more of a finding the right fish and being there at the right time.
Right.
So it's a timing issue, and putting something that they're interested in enough to try and chew on and see if it's going to eat.
Are they mainly common carp you get in there?
Yeah, there's some monster grass carp over here too. I mean, absolutely monstrous grass carp.
If you really wanted to get frustrated, you could do that.
You do. Let me tell you what. I mean, I'm done with them. They and the really big ones that we can go right now. We can hop in the boat. I can take you, and I will show you 30 grass carp that weigh 40 plus pounds each, but you can't get close to them. I mean, as soon as they know anything about you, there's just pushing wakes and getting in far. Some guys were catching some during the cicada hatch on cicada patterns, right? Everything was eating the cicadas basically. So it was kind of redemption time.
Even the vegans, huh?
Yeah, exactly.
That's cool. I caught one time. I'm pretty sure it was accidental, but I'll never forget the smell on my hands after that, man. After I washed for days, I smelled like a New Delhi whorehouse. I couldn't get off my damn hands. It was worth it.
Funny. Have you caught a gar?
Yeah, a few. Little long nose. I've never caught an alligator gar or anything.
Pretty stinky too.
Yeah.
Pretty
fun, man. They're pretty underrated. They jump and go nuts.
Yeah, go nuts. Exactly right.
You catch those in the river too?
Yeah, you can. I haven't done it in a while, but this time of year when things are kind of slow and, especially midday, you're out and you're looking for something to do. There's some monster carp around here that you can go chase, and they're laid up sunbathing most of the time, you know what I mean? And we'll tie some rope flies and throw the rope flies out. I mean, I used to do it with the kids when they were a little bit younger. I'd just tie a big rope fly that you could throw on a spinning rod. And, it's a dinosaur, basically. A kid thinks that's the greatest thing in the world, especially if it's 50 plus inches.
Yeah, gee, that's
like, holy cow.
Yeah.
Then you got to deal with them.
Yeah. I found most of them that I've gotten in the boat are kind of like a drunk kitten. They just kind of sit there. They don't really thrash around too much.
Yeah, it's just getting the fly untangled from their mouth if you're using a rope fly.
Barracuda, you can do it. You just don't really want to,
Yeah, exactly. It's something that's fun, but don't want to do that kind of fun today.
Yeah. Well, tell me about the story about that goldfish you caught. 4 years in the making.
Yeah, so I've literally seen that fish. She's definitely smarter than the average carp, right? You don't get to be I don't know how much she weighs, 12 pounds, 10 or 12 pound carp, a koi. You don't get to live that long in that river without being pretty damn smart, right? So I'd see them. I'd be with clients and I'd see them. I'd be with clients that were carp fishing, and I'm like, oh, there, you can see him 250 yards away. I'm like, oh, he's here today. Come on, let's go give it a shot. And you get close enough to cast, and as soon as you made a cast, he'd be gone. So there's all sorts of raptors and otters and everything else, and cormorants. They would love to eat that fish, and so he's been in there for a while, and if he survived that gauntlet, then he's definitely going to survive me. And so I'd been fishing with some clients that day, some older guys, and they kind of gave out a gas, and so they were like, they wanted to put it on the trailer too. And so I took them back. They had followed me up to the river, and so I took them back, sent them on their way, and I ran back up there and found him again. And even when I found him, it took me 2 or 3 tries to get him. I had to drift, I'd drift past him, and then I'd go back around and drift past him again. And finally he ate, and I was excited. That was pure, genuine joy that I was exhibiting.
Was he swimming, or does he swim around with carp, or is he kind of alone?
Yeah, he swims around just with a carp. He acts a lot like a carp.
But it's actually a koi, you said.
It's a koi. Yeah, he's just a big koi. And there's another one in there that another guy caught a week or 2 later. He was a little bit smaller and kind of prettier in some ways. He was kind of black and white and orange.
Oh, wow.
So I guess, people dumping their goldfish in the river. getting rid
Don't
of
those
them.
koi live like 100 years, don't they?
Yeah, I mean, they must. That guy may be 50 years old. I don't know.
Yeah, shit. Who knows?
Hmm.
That's crazy. Are y'all doing the Carp Cup again this year?
No, we still got it on hold. They're doing kind of a improvised invitational cup. Some of the former employees of mine,
Nice.
one of my employees, so we'll let them have at it. It's a pain in the ass.
Yeah. Yeah, I did a few tournaments. It's a lot more work than you.
It's a lot more.
Not
It's, a
what
lot
you
more, it's
think
fun
it
if you're just fishing them. If you're
Yeah.
putting them together, it's a lot of work.
Yeah. Nice. Yeah, you should have like that's bonus points in the cup if you catch one of those, right?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, that, as far as I'm concerned, you win.
You win. That's crazy. You
Period.
get the buffalo carp there too?
We get buffalo, a couple different species, largemouth, smallmouth, and they're harder to catch, not as fun to catch, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
You'll catch them trout fishing sometimes when there's a hatch going on. They'll eat a nymph, and you can catch them other times. In early spring, they'll be a little bit more aggressive and might eat a fly that you're stripping or something like that, but not nearly as fun.
Nice. Has the shop gotten busier since the COVID restrictions got lifted?
Yeah, so it's been gangbusters like everywhere else for pretty much since June of last year. We had a shutdown, I guess, in March. Everybody was kind of filling it out, seeing what was going to happen and all that sort of stuff. And then subsequently, everybody's, what are you going to do? Can't travel, can't
Right.
do any of these other stuff. So you're sticking close to home and fishing. So it's been good from that perspective. Obviously, there's been some real issues too from a supply side perspective, just trying to get product in and having a reliable thing. But I mean, that's with everything. So I think most consumers at this point are kind of,
They understand.
yeah, man. I mean, have you tried to buy something recently?
No, my friend runs a kayak store though, and I went in there a few months ago. There's no kayaks. I'm like, how do you have a kayak store with no kayaks? He's like, we started buying used ones from people, marking them up 10% just to have something to sell.
Right.
And I think they were 6 months out on one of their major distributors, and they were all sold. They told their customers
everything's already sold.
Yeah, they've sold them all. So
bike store,
Bikes,
kayak, outboard motor,
Yeah.
fly rod, anything outdoors, like ammunition. If you like to,
Oh,
shoot
yeah.
deer or something, you couldn't get shells for a while. I think that's starting to open back up a little
Yeah,
bit.
but the price of ammo is just through the
Yeah,
roof.
it got ridiculous.
Like 20 bucks a shell or 20 cents a shell for a 22 long rifle.
I know. It's crazy. Like, what?
Yeah, dust off the BB gun at that point. Jeez. You gonna fish the rest of the day, or are you in the shop?
No, I'm in the shop. I got a few things I got to do here. I've been coaching middle school football.
Nice. How's that going? Testing your patience?
Yeah. I mean, honestly, it's been fun. We're not seeing the results we want to see right now, but it's been a lot of fun. I kind of get grumpy about it when I think about how much time it's stealing from me, and then I get out there on the practice field with those young guys, and it's joshing around and doing football stuff. It's been kind of fun. So,
Are you the head coach?
No way. They were desperate.
Yeah.
If they're asking me to coach, they're desperate for bodies. Basically, they needed somebody that had some offensive line experience. So,
did you play offensive line?
Yeah, way back in the day.
Yeah, I did too.
Yeah.
Does your son play?
He does, but he's had a broken ankle. He broke his ankle at lacrosse camp. I guess it was May or June. I can't remember when he went to lacrosse camp. And then we went to the beach the week after, so he didn't exactly lay off the ankle like the doctor told him to. So it kind of retarded his healing. And so as a result, he's been in a boot the whole summer. He just got it off last week, I think it was. So he's on the team, but now he's got to find he's got some catching up to do.
Yeah, he's on your team. Nice. Yeah. How old's he now?
13.
Damn.
I got a 15-year-old too.
Damn. You hear it your whole life. They grow up so fast. And we actually have me like, Jesus Christ, they grow up
Yeah,
fast.
no, that's exactly right. And people tell you that, like,
Well, shut up.
yeah, especially when they're this big, you're like, I just want some sleep.
Yeah.
They're growing up fast, driving. Got to start thinking about college and all that stuff.
What do they want to do? Any idea?
They have no idea. Be YouTube stars like every other kid these days.
Right. Instant famous.
Yeah, I was like, go for it. But,
money for nothing in your chick.
Have a fallback. Yeah, exactly. Let's figure something out. Let's keep school up.
Yeah, right. Where'd y'all go to the beach?
We went down to St. George's Island.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, it's a good spot. I like that place. Usually try to throw in some tarpon fishing while we're down there.
How'd you do? How'd you do?
It was just shit weather. They had that one of the tropical storms that hit just the week before. And so the whole bay was kind of messed up from all that extra fresh water rolling into it. And then it was just sort of overcast and rainy the rest of the week. So I got out one morning with Cleve and jumped one fish, and then the thunder boomers popped up, and that was kind of the end of the rest of the week. It maintained, so we didn't even go out again.
Yeah, that sucks. There's lots of tarpon here if you get the wild hair.
Yeah. I never told you my Paulie's Island story, and this would have been, gosh, the kids were tiny. It's probably 10 years ago. I'd have to look it up. Maybe right about 10 years ago. I was over at Paulie's Island, staying on the north side of the island, out right there at the cut.
The inlet.
Yeah. And I had young kids at the time. They were probably 5 and 3 or 6 and 4, something like that. So I had maybe an hour or two in the morning if I got up at 5 to go fish or do something, have a little solo time. And so I'll get up before the trout guys and everybody else showed up at that cut at the inlet there, and just sort of sitting there in the morning watching and seeing what's happening. And sitting there first morning, and here comes bull sharkers crushing mullet right along the jetty right there. And I was like, oh, that's interesting. That's something kind of cool. So maybe I'll come out here in the morning with a 10 weight and see what's happening. I'm not going to land it, but it'd be something to do for an hour. And I came back the next morning, and there's tarpon. And
doing the same thing.
Doing the same thing. I've been going to Paulie's Island my whole life. And I was like, my mind's blowing up now. Like, holy cow. And so I was like, all right, I can get my game face on. So the next morning I show up, and I'm sitting there doing my thing there, waiting on them to pop up and all that. And this young guy shows up, and he's got a sluggo on a big spinning rod. He looks at me, and I look at him. He's like, are they here? And I was like, yeah. Anyway, we struck up a conversation. He's like, all right, I'll tell you what. He said, I'll pick you up in the morning in my boat, and we'll go try and catch one on crab. I was like, yeah, let's do it. His guy named Jordan Pay, Captain Pay.
I know Jordan.
Yeah. And so we'd never met. It's the first time we met. So sure enough, he came and picked me up. And he had his son with him that next morning. He couldn't have been more than two or 3 years old.
Oh, wow.
Anyway, the tides had changed, and it gotten progressively worse as the week had gone on, tide wise, from the perspective of catching a tarpon in that inlet. But we jumped a big one. These weren't small fish. These were big daddy 150 pounders kind of thing. So in my mind's eye, that started kind of the South Carolina tarpon. What's going on now is kind of y'all are really kind of getting better at it and figuring them out a little bit and all that sort of stuff.
Yeah, Jordan and Newman Weaver are basically single-handedly responsible for that. I know Raz did a lot with the tarpon early, but those two guys kind of put it on the map, and they got that shit figured out. Yeah, in the Georgetown area, Paulie's Island. Yeah. Did you ever flounder fish in that north inland of Paulie's?
A little bit, yeah. A little bit.
We got reports of them one day. They're like, "Oh, you're catching hundreds of flounders." So we went up there and got some mud minnows and took the kids, and I think we caught about 150 flounder between the three of us in the boat, and one of them was legal size. They were all like
They're
cocaine.
all-
They're like, how are you eating that thing? But it's
There's
fun.
nothing on it. Oh well, he caught some fish.
Yeah, I didn't realize you've been going there that long.
Yeah, I kind of quit now because they priced me out of it. I mean, the rentals on that place now are
God.
ridiculous.
Yeah.
It's gotten absolutely asinine.
Yeah,
I did see, Baker Bishop.
yeah,
down there.
pretty well.
Yeah, Baker and I grew up together, so saw him posting some pretty nice fish.
Yeah, he caught a big one here with Harry last week. That
Yeah.
guy's a tarpon magnet. I think he's
Yeah,
the most tournament-winning tarpon guy in the Keys,
Yeah,
or he's damn close to it if he's not.
yeah, exactly right.
So you grew up with Baker?
Mm-hmm.
I never knew you grew up.
Yeah, I had 50 going on 15, right?
Yeah, right.
About a motorcycle.
Benjamin Button.
That's right. Going backwards here.
Where did you grow up?
Knoxville. Here in Knoxville.
Is Baker from there?
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
Mm-hmm.
That's cool.
Yeah.
Any travel plans coming up?
The only thing I have cemented on the book, so I think will actually happen, is I'm doing that Bolivia trip for the to the Chimani lodges in October 22. Trying to do another Argentina trip in this year, but I'm not so sure that's going to happen the way things are going right now.
Have you done Bolivia before?
I lived down there about 2003 or 4. I was working on a PhD at Texas A&M, and I worked on this bigger project. So I lived literally with the Chimani for about 18 months.
Oh, wow.
They've got 2 sort of territories, and I worked in the one that the lodges aren't in. The lodges are in the national park. So I've been to the national park, but I never went and saw those rivers and the fish, but I'm familiar obviously with the area.
And those lodges, they'll use like indigenous people, right? They employ.
Yeah, they have to. So, I mean,
that's good.
You pay an entrance fee to the park, and then you pay a fee to the tribe as well.
Yeah, that would suck to get down there and have like some New York guide, It's like,
yeah,
hey, welcome to Bolivia.
Yeah,
what the hell? That's awesome. So that's a cool trip. Are you hosting it, or are you just kind of going with some other guys?
Hosting it.
Is it all booked up?
I got one spot left.
Nice.
You want to go? Yeah, come on.
How much is it?
It's about $8,000.
It's not bad. If my wife's not listening, I'll tell her it's 2.
Right. That's exactly right.
Start saving.
Did
you fish when you were down there working on your PhD?
No, well, not in the sense that you're thinking. I lived about as far back into the jungle as you could go with some, so this pretty big group of Amerindians, Indians, the Chimani. There's probably 4,000 or 5,000 total in their population, and you can imagine some of them live closer to town and closer to a market economy. And then there's the people that don't want any part of the market economy, and they live as far back up into the woods as they can go. And I was with those people. So
that's awesome.
Being a hillbilly, I was fit right in. I knew what was going on and kind of got them. They did what they call barbasco fishing. So you would go, 2 methods. You could either collect the sap from a tree, or you would collect the roots of these bushes, but either method worked. And I'm not sure they weren't similar species of, but I don't have any idea. You would then take the sap or the roots, and you'd mix it up with some mud from the river, and you would put it in these cloth bags that they wove from cotton and put it into the water, and it would rob the water of oxygen essentially. And so these fish would get lethargic and kind of come up and onto the surface and gulp air, and then sort of flop around a little bit before they caught their wits. And you'd sit there and bow fish for them, and then have a pretty big barbecue afterwards. So
hell yeah,
fish. It was fun.
What was your primary reason? What were you studying about?
So there's a bigger project down there called the Chimani Life History and Health project, and they're looking at longitudinal stuff. So they've been down, they're still down there. So it's 20 plus years now ongoing project, and they were looking at how does morbidity and nutrition, caloric deficiencies early in life affect longevity and morbidity through the life course. So, if you're small, stunted, aren't getting enough calories when you're young, is it going to impact your ability, your health when you're 25, when you're 35, when you're 45, when you're 55? And is it going to put a cap on your ultimate life range? Of course, corollary in this country is childhood obesity. So what do too many calories mean for our health, longevity, morbidity, and all that sort of stuff? And so it's a pretty interesting project from that perspective. I was looking at the acquisition of expertise and how we change hunting tactics over the course of the lifespan. So when you're you can appreciate this because you've probably been fishing your whole life. When you're 15 or 16, that's when they kind of get cut loose and are allowed to get out in the jungle a little bit on their own. You hunt very differently than if you're 45 or 65, and differently from a perspective of what what your body's capable of doing, and what your caloric household needs are. So if you got 2 wives and 12 children at the house, yeah, bringing home we call them jungle chickens. I can't remember what their actual name was. If you bring home jungle chickens, somebody's going to get hungry,
right?
Pretty bad, right? So you better have means to offset that, or you better be a pretty good hunter and bring a bigger chunk of change back to the house for everybody to eat. When you get older, you may not be able to move the way you used to and get through the jungle the way you used to. And so you got to adapt to doing different things, right? It's like a lot like fishing. We don't run out and fish 8 hours a day right now because it's
Right.
too hot. Go fish for 4 hours and then go back to work and nobody's the wiser kind of thing. So same sort of stuff.
Hunt harder, not smart, or hunt smarter, not harder.
Yeah, exactly right.
So what were you studying in school, like sociology or
anthropology?
Anthropology.
Yeah.
So when did you decide that you were gonna have a fly shop in a guide business?
I always thought I'd have a fly shop.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then I was living in New Zealand after all that and teaching down there. And it was in a bad marriage. And she's from Argentina, and she was kind of threatening to run off to Argentina and abscond with the children. And so I needed to figure out how to prevent that from happening, one. And then it was also sort of get off the pot. And I had some job offers in some interesting places that would have been pretty cool to go and live. And then but that got taken off the shelf because of the marriage woes. And the thought of ending up in Omaha, Nebraska, I shouldn't pick on Omaha. It's probably a very nice place.
Iowa. We don't know anybody in Iowa.
Yeah, Iowa's fine. Manhattan, Kansas, something like that. On a tenure track job just didn't seem appealing to me. And I needed to be back in Knoxville, is what it boiled down to, because I had 2 young children and I needed to try and raise and all that sort of stuff. And when I got back here, the fly shop had been closed. I had been gone for 10 or so years from Knoxville and the States for that matter. And the fly shop had closed, things had started to change. And Scott, who ran the creel back then, sort of said, I'm a dinosaur. I'm not going to roll with the punches. And he just sort of shut it down. So there was a opening, and here we are.
So it was called the Creel before you bought it?
No, I didn't buy it from it. It had been closed down. That was the
Okay.
shop before this one. Yeah.
But it was in the same location?
No, it's just down the street. It was, probably a mile west of me, a little bit more maybe.
You're in a great location too.
Yeah, it's good
That
stuff.
little pet fish right down the street.
Mm-hmm.
You ever mess with those things?
Which ones? What are you
The
talking
ones
about?
at the restaurant.
Oh yeah, of course. I invented messing with them.
Oh man, that is last time we were there. I think it was midnight, and we made the decision to pack up and head on down there and try.
Why not?
And Brighton went to the restaurant and bought a whole bag of rolls. I think they charged him like $30, but he got like 100 dinner rolls, and he came back with this big bag, and we just started chumming the water. And you get 6 fly fishermen after midnight out there looking at something like that, hundreds of fish boiling the water on the bread, and it wasn't gentlemanly anymore. We were pushing each other out of the way and cussing. That's a horrible cast. And we couldn't get them to eat anything. And I finally pulled out a little white bass popper, and I cut everything else off except the popper, so it just looked like a little ball of bread. And we probably hooked 20 and lost 20 poppers. Because you're not turning those things in that current.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's crazy.
Yeah, it's funny. I know one of the guys that's pretty high up in that restaurant chain. He said they used to do something to new employees or employees that were leaving. They would take all the scraps from dinner that night and throw them somebody would go out and stage it up and get the fish just boiling, and then they would take that person and throw them in the middle of all that stuff. And I was like, can we do that for Carp Cup? Can we make that a thing for Carp? The Carp King has to swim with the fishes right at the end of that stuff, but it never came to fruition.
Or you make the people that didn't catch fish get pushed in. Make you fish.
Yeah, something. Somebody's got to swim with them. Or if we're going to roll them in peanut butter and put like dog food all over them and just make them jump in and see what happens.
Remember up there one year, I think it was there at the Calhoun's or the dock there. We did the intern challenge. It was my intern versus Scoff's intern.
Yeah, I remember.
And we did like the 12-weight swim where we hooked them up and see who could swim the farthest. There was lots of crazy stuff.
Yeah.
So I didn't realize you taught in New Zealand. Were you teaching anthropology?
Mm-hmm.
How long did you do that?
It's probably there 3 or 4 years. I can't remember exactly how long.
You like teaching?
I like teaching. Yeah. I like teaching. Office politics and the anthropology department are not great. I'm not a ultra conservative guy by any stretch of the imagination, but there's some pretty liberal thinking people that sort of gravitate towards anthropology, as you can imagine, and in particular cultural anthropology. And so I didn't always see eye to eye with everybody that I worked with.
Where in New Zealand were you?
Auckland.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
Did you do any fishing over there?
Oh yeah, quite a bit.
Is it hard as they say?
I don't know. It's I don't think it's that hard. Here's what I think. I think that the average, what they're used to seeing out of American anglers that show up down there is not great. That makes sense. Mm-hmm. Like we're not sending them our best and brightest. We're just sending them our richest.
Right.
And so I didn't have any problem catching fish down there. It's sight fishing, and they're big fish, and they can be a little bit picky, and you need to know how to find them and land them and all that sort of stuff. But I didn't think it was particularly difficult. It was pretty awesome.
Yeah,
is what it boiled down to. And then you also, I lived there long enough also to be privy to some inside knowledge on how and what to do while fishing down there. And those guys, we called it we're always looking for the sweet spot, the middle zone. So you wanted to be on a river in a section that was too far for your day hiker, your day average Joe is going to fish out of the car, but not far enough for your heli fisher. And so there was some good water in those medium stretches where if you were willing to hoof it back there and get onto it, you could do it. There was good water everywhere. They're still pretty good about keeping shit hush hush. Yeah. They were when I was down there. You know what I mean? You're not putting this on Instagram and social media and all that stuff and ruining a pretty delicate resource. So you still had to get out and discover it and figure out some spots on your own.
And are they all wild trout? There's no stocking program there, is it?
I don't think there's any stocking program any longer. I don't know why. I don't think they would allow it anymore. I mean, from a economic perspective, there's a lot of money brought into the country from tourists coming over to angle, but they're very strict on non-native species these days, and so I'm not sure they wouldn't rather have them out of there than in there if you were talking to a wildlife person over there, but I'm not sure.
Yeah, I've always wanted to try that. I heard it's something crazy like 8 trout per mile or something. It's not a number that.
Well, yeah, and so there's a lot of different water there. So the North Island is very different from the South Island. And, some of those South Island waters, I can remember having some days, like a good day, my best day on the Oretti and the South Island. I probably caught 5 or 6 fish, but they were all, the smallest was probably 5 or 6 pounds. And, there were several that were 8 or 9, and then one that probably went 10 plus or something.
Dang, right.
So, that's a crazy day. And you talk to some of the guys down there, Stu Trippman. You ever met him in one of the shows? He's a hoot. And he'd be like, I got clients that've been coming down here for 10 years and they've never caught a fish on that river. And I was like, I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know what to tell you. Some folks are lucky.
Yeah, exactly. I'd rather be lucky, but it's situational awareness and knowing where fish are going to be and seeing the fish before.
And it's mainly like spot and stalk fishing.
Yeah, an average Kiwi, if it's overcast, we're not going fishing. Period.
That's
yeah. And I can respect that.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Yeah. And there's not a lot like oddly that New Zealand indicator. I don't know if you've seen those.
That little tuft of.
Yeah. It's a newish product. Newish being the last 5 or 6 years it's come out of New Zealand. I don't think I ever saw. That's not true. There's some steelhead fishing they did down there. I never fished with an indicator for trout other than the steelhead in wintertime fishing. Like, so you would sight fish with a nymph. If they're not eating dries and you see one, you would, same thing we were just talking about with the carp. It was about seeing that gill flash, if you're fishing a size 18, size 16 nymph, probably 3 or 4 feet down. You always want to put a little sparkle in it so you have a chance of seeing where it is and following it and knowing where it was. But a lot of times you lose sight of the nymph, and so you got to watch the fish's behavior and see that gill flash and let it and then set the hook.
Martin was telling me that's the only place in the world they have green stoneflies.
I don't know, that's possible. I don't remember rolling any stones and seeing green stoneflies.
Yeah, that's pretty wild.
I don't know what my go-to fly was down there. Kind of standard stuff. I don't remember. I mean, there were a few places which were kind of exceptional in the sense that they were I can't, like Taupo, which is
it's a big lake, isn't it?
It's a big crater lake in the center of the North Island. And it's got a lot of tributaries that run into it. And so the rainbows in the lake run out and migrate to go spawn in the wintertime. There's a spring, I think there's a spring run too. So it's just like Lake Michigan or some of these other lake run rainbows that we have in this country. They had a nighttime caddis hatch in the summertime, so you could go skitter caddis in the dark and catch a bunch of fish on that. Other than that, I don't, there wasn't real true hatches. It's not like here in East Tennessee where, you get into a mayfly hatch or a caddis hatch and every fish in the river's boiling kind of thing. They're pretty sparse and few and far between. I always had a one fish rule. And that was, I'm looking for that one exceptional fish that makes a difference. And that was even on the North Island. And once I caught it, I could probably go to the house. And so that sort of gives you an idea of, it's definitely quality over quantity down there. But that doesn't mean you can't go and catch some good fish. There were some pretty spectacular days on some high country stuff in the North Island where we caught plenty of fish. Like every pool would have they weren't huge, it'd be a 5-pound rainbow, but every pool, one guy be spotting, one guy be fishing, the next guy be going upstream to find the next hole and see where the next fish was for whoever was up that time, kind of thing. So,
man, it's hard to talk about fishing sometimes. I'm like itching. I'm like, damn, I want to go trout fishing.
Yeah, let's go do that. Let's go right now.
It's crazy. Oh, are y'all going up to IFTD this year?
I don't know. I know Dave and Steve had talked to me about it. Maybe going.
The golf guys.
Huh?
Scoff.
Scoff. Yeah, that's fools at Scoff. I might go. I need a break. I had a vacation in a while.
Yeah.
Beach vacation doesn't count. That's with kids. I need an Allen vacation. I'm due. I'm definitely due.
Burn down Salt Lake.
Yeah, I might go out there early and do a little fishing. And but I'll be honest with you. I mean, I was just talking about it with a buddy in here. All the reports from guys that have been out west fishing have not been great. Just between crowds and
fires and
hot and low water and hoot owl and blah 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 blah. It doesn't sound like the West has been a great place to get away from it. If you working on a fly shop, maybe you don't want to go dive into that for your break. So I may go with a plan B. I'm not sure what it'll look like.
Yeah, I think we're going to rent a big house, so we probably get everybody in there.
Oh, are you?
Yeah, I think it's like 11 bedrooms or something.
Yeah, that's my rule. I just got to have a bedroom.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not sharing it with Dave.
Yeah, or Steve.
Yeah.
Done that before.
Yeah. I don't know. What's your take on that? You think how is it going to be well attended?
I think so. There's like some bigger companies that are that I haven't seen in the last couple of years, and the new companies like Bahia Sunglasses, they're going to be a big booth out there. Okay. So I've just never been to Salt Lake too. So yeah. And I love those shows. It's like a high school reunion with people you actually want to see. So
yeah, exactly.
Pretty exciting.
It's usually a pretty good time.
Yeah.
And sometimes
it's hard to be in the fly fishing industry and not be happy. There's very few disgruntled people in there.
That's right. Yeah. That's I mean, it's the downfall of the industry too, is that we're all big kids. Yeah. There's a chance it's not getting done. I'm on the
race this life. That's awesome.
Do it tomorrow.
Sweet, man. Well, thanks for talking to me today. I know you're busy as shit, so
yeah,
I'll let you get back to it.
Gonna go coach football. Maybe go fish. What is today? Thursday or is it Wednesday?
Thursday, yeah.
Yeah, I may go fish tomorrow.
Sweet.
Yeah.
Solo or a charter?
Solo.
By yourself? Nice.
Sneak out. Early morning assault.
Hell yeah.
Yep. All right, man.
Keep in touch. Come down and see us. Definitely.
All right.
Thanks, dude. Later.
Yeah.